guys, this is my first collaboration video that I've ever done, so I kind of think it's pretty cool. I liked watching them when I was not even a homeschool mom yet. I liked to be able to watch all of the videos that were in collaboration with each other and learn a lot about one subject from many different moms. And so in this case, Kara from the Momma Librarian invited me to talk about testing along with Michelle G on her channel. What is really cool is that we're only collaborating on doing the videos at the same time. We're not collaborating on what's going on in the video and how we talk about testing. So each one of us should come at it with a completely different perspective, even if we're protesting or, oh, I said protesting. That's kind of funny. Even if we are pro-test taking or we don't want to test, which I actually think, I can't remember if Michelle G does standardized testing at the end of the year. So I'm as interested to see what they are going to say about testing as well. So where should I start? I have my notes here to make sure that I don't forget anything. So here are my questions that I'm giving myself. What is testing? Why do I test? How do we test? When do we test? What test does Morgan take? What do I use testing for? And also, when will I stop testing? Because there will be a point at which I stop testing Morgan. And by testing, my definition of testing, and it could be different on the other two videos, is the standardized tests. So in the American system, the standardized tests is when you talk about testing, that's what it is. That's going to be what every kid in the nation goes to take to get assessed at the end of the year. In our case, in North Dakota, they are very homeschool friendly. And if we wanted to test in the public school system, all I would have to do is coordinate with them and show up at the right date and time for Morgan. She'd just run in there to her classroom, and she knows all the kids anyway. And they would take care of the testing, and I wouldn't be paying for it. I think that is an absolutely fantastic option. If you like to test, if that's something the state offers, it's completely free. And then you get the results. When the school gets the results, you get the results. We actually would do it that way, but for one exception, and that is that the timing of the tests, because they don't do them at the very end of the year, don't really work for me as the homeschool mom. Particularly last year when I was new, I really needed those next extra couple of months because I think they test around March or April, and I really needed that extra time to work with Morgan on school before I tested her, because that test was not just for her, it was for me to see how I was doing, to see what I had been able to give her. And I wanted that full whole year of homeschooling with Morgan to be on the testing block so that I could look to see if what I did worked. Now, if that wasn't an issue, I would absolutely be going in and probably testing in our school system. But that also brings me to why I test. Every year, that test is well, so Morgan likes to test. I suspect last year she asked to test because she wasn't entirely convinced that I could do it. And I think that we maybe both needed that test to prove it. It turns out we're doing just fine. But she really likes testing because it's a low-key week. That's the only thing that's expected of her that day, is to show up for the test in her room. She's got her own little desk, and I sit in there with her and I read while she tests, and I'm the monitor. I think the assumption is you need to be in the room so that nobody cheats, right? You really want it to be very professional, and I like it to be very professional. So I'll go a little bit more in depth about why I test, and mainly it's about me. I want to know how I'm doing as the person who has assisted Morgan throughout her year of learning. I want to see if I have helped her. And there are many ways to do that. And one way is testing. That's just one of many tools that I use. So not only do I want to talk about testing, but I want to discuss how I assess other than that, because it's not just testing, but it's also how we assess as homeschool moms, right? So I find that when I've looked last year, and we'll see if that's the case again this year, but I find that last year when I looked through the test, all of the things that she did quite well on were things that we had needed to double down on because we were weak on those things. That doesn't have anything to do with the public school. It simply was the things that I identified as just being, and her previous teacher had recognized her as just being a little weak in certain areas. So I had focused on those areas. And as a one-on-one mom with just one kid, I kind of feel like I was able to give her that private education, right? That really allowed her time, some quiet time that I realized she needed to have so that she wasn't distracted, to delve deep and learn, like deep learning, deep concentration. Setting that style of school up for Morgan allowed her to learn better. And then we've started really tracking. So I wanted to have that whole year that I had worked with her to test. And then I wanted to see what her test was. So when I looked and saw, okay, well, we're really low here. And every single time she was very low in a grade, it was because she should have had it in the 4th grade, but because she was with me in the 4th grade and we didn't cover it, it stands to reason that she didn't do well in that portion of the test. Because I was busy, if you've seen any of my math videos, especially last year, I was busy filling some gaps, and we went back several books in Math UC, all the way back to alpha, and then we did beta, and then we did gamma, and now we're doing epsilon. Oh wait, delta, and now we're doing epsilon. So I was redoing a lot of stuff to help Morgan review and get things more solidified, and it worked. And the testing helped me see that it worked. And because of that, because Morgan likes to test, because I like her to test, because it's just one extra tool that I can use, it's not the be all end all, but it's one extra tool that I can use, I'm going to use it. And the results do help me. So then how do we test? What I do is I chose Seton testing, and then Adam, and then Dora. And I mentioned this in a couple of videos ago about how we tested. And then we did the phonemic that we won't need to do anymore. She will do, again, I think what I will choose is the Seton testing and then the Adam, and maybe I'll do the Dora for the reading comprehension. I order it several weeks. You get on the website, you can do any company, so I'm not plugging Seton, but that's just the one we use. I would suggest, if you're not familiar with it, or you haven't done any testing, you don't know where to start, then do look and see what your options are first for companies administering tests. And then from there, contact them if you have any questions. They're very good at responding, at least Seton was. And then figure out what it is that you need to do so that you're not running behind. I know a couple of homeschool moms had really honestly admitted, there's some videos on testing from many years ago, and they honestly admitted that they hadn't paid enough attention to what the mom needed to do before they got to the testing day, and they regretted that. And that, I thank them for that, because that really helped me know that 2 weeks before the test taking, I want to reread the rules. And then 1 week before the test taking, I want to remake sure that I can log in, that Morgan can log in, all of that stuff. Just get it all done, write a cheat sheet, because some of it, the first time you do it especially, it's not intuitive. You really need to know what you're doing, and you need to have that 800 number just in case something doesn't work, so you can call them before the test starts, because sometimes you have to show up at a certain time for the test, and then other times you can just start anytime during that day. Then what I do is I choose not to do any other part of school for that test week. And last year I set up tests for every day of the week, Monday through Friday, the last one being the easiest. It was actually only 30 minutes long, if that. And Morgan was done the whole rest of the day. I don't have her do anything else. She just goes and plays. She can sleep in, she can read her book if she wants, she can go play, but I don't tack on any other kind of school because we don't need to. As a one-on-one kind of homeschool with me and Morgan, it's okay to just do testing that week and nothing more. And that does count as a school day. I think Morgan puts in work. She sits there, she concentrates, she's serious about it. She gets credit for that day. For us in our situation here this year, I regretted having the testing week the week before we were finished with school, because then the week after testing, we were sort of standing around looking at each other going, well, now what do we do? Because we tested, it's all done, we've kind of wrapped it all up. So from now on, I really want to do kind of the university way of prep for testing, or prep for however you want to prep. And then on testing week, that's the very last day. So when Morgan is done with her last exam, then that means school's out for summer. Summer begins. That's probably going to work a lot better. We'll get a lot more out of the week if we have the last week, instead of testing and then a school week that we really didn't get a lot done in, it's better to just move that over to pre-testing and then test, and then we're done. And then the big question is, well, if I like to test, why would I stop testing? And when would I stop testing? I don't feel like testing the standardized tests after the 8th grade are really worth my while after that, but I'm open to suggestions. I think that things will change for me and Morgan once we hit the 9th grade, where I issue grades and she will receive input from me on a weekly basis what her grade is. Also, I wanted to make sure that I referenced a book that many of you I know have read. It is Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning. And I really took to heart the research behind that book, the reason for testing, why you test more frequently than just having a midterm and a final. I think, I know for me, I work better if I know I'm tested on a weekly basis, because my head stays in the game better, rather than, I do kick the can sometimes. So I'm the kid who used to stay up all night writing the 20-page paper 8 hours before it was due. I don't want to do that with Morgan. And I really want to, because I think that's human nature for a lot of us, I would like to train a different routine in for Morgan. And so I want to do testing differently in high school. I don't think that I need standardized tests unless somebody tells me otherwise or convinces me otherwise. So the stakes are different in high school, and I'd be interested in knowing what other people thought about that. But for now, her last standardized test for me, would be the end of her 8th grade year. And then after that, the whole thing sort of shifts into a different gear. It's not more or less important. It's just a different phase, and I'd like to treat it that way. So I'd really be interested in knowing what other people are doing. I think that about covers it for standardized testing. And then, as I mentioned with Make It Stick, how it's important to me to assess along the way. And as homeschool moms, you know that you can assess like every minute, every hour, every day. We assess where our kids are, and that's what makes it so unique, is even better than a Harvard costing private education. We are right there to pivot and move and assist and move things out of the way, provide things, show our kids different ways to learn if that way doesn't work or if this way doesn't work. So my assessment for Morgan is different. So here's an example. I'll use history as an example, and I think I'll use math as an example as well. History is, I don't do grades right now. So when Morgan does the story of the world, she has, there's that quiz. There's a little 2-page quiz that's really fun to do. So we read a chapter or two, and then right after we've read the chapters, I read the quiz aloud, and Morgan narrates to me back about the chapter, and she gives me the answer to the quizzes. Then the next day, I give her a copy of the quiz, and she fills it out, either based off of memory, or she can say, I don't remember what the answer to this was. I will give her the book, and I'll show her the page that it's on, and she hunts for the answer, and she finds it, and she fills it out. And then she chucks that paper. Then I photocopy it again, and I give it to her. So for instance, we will have done it on Monday. She writes or fills out the test on Tuesday. Then she does it again on Wednesday. She does the same on Thursday. And on Friday, she takes the test for real. And that just means that I put a stamp on it, and then I file it for our own records. That's how we take that quiz, because I'm not interested in Morgan getting a 10 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. I'm not keeping score in that regard. And I'm not using the Story of the World quiz like that. I'm using it as a means to help Morgan remember that chapter day after day until we start the next chapter. And I have found that doing that and talking to Morgan has solidified details into her memory deeper and more long-term. She still remembers a lot of the Story of the World from last year. And so I find that encouraging to use those quizzes as a means of just to remember things, to jog one's memory. And for now, what I'm teaching is open book quizzes. Have at it. The syllabi that I write, that you've seen in one of my videos, has has a clause in it that says every test in the course is an open book test, unless otherwise noted. So if Morgan wants, I'll give her a whole big test when she gets into high school. She's not timed. If she wants to take 2 hours to do it and go in her room and do an open book test, she can do that for the majority of the semester. And then what I'd like her to do is write a paper on it. Because at least for history, as a good example, that's how we remember history. I am never going to be interested in if Morgan can remember an exact date, and if she doesn't, she gets the entire question wrong. That's just never the way we're going to do homeschool. That's why I hated history. It's just strange that I even have a history degree, but I hated history growing up because it was just some mandatory boring thing. So I use different types of assessments differently, and one is to keep the interest of the child and build deeper memory of the information. And then with math, you see, we have a different situation going on, and that is that it's like a language that you really do have to build on. For instance, with history, you can really get into one era and never know this era over here, or these peoples over here, or this continent over here. And it doesn't have anything to do with your grade on this side or your knowledge of these people. Math is not like that. It really does build on itself. And because of that, Morgan and I are not natural mathematicians, which is why if you've seen how we do math, and I think at the end of the year, I showed you how much in inches of math Morgan did. It's not because we're great at math. It's not because we love math. It's because we need math. And she and I need a lot of math. So when it comes to assessment, it's daily in the warm-up, and it's daily with the mental math, and it's weekly with the mastery, where I have to wait until Morgan says to me, I totally get this, Mom. Can we move on to the next one? Yes, we can. But until she does that, she is continually, what I like to think of as self-assessment, which is hugely important, to be able to truthfully self-assess. And I use math to get her to learn how to assess herself, what her limits are, and if she wants to expand those limits, she needs to be honest with herself and know what she needs to do, and if she needs to continue to do more of it. This is how I think we will continue to do it all the way through high school. So when it goes to each week, she will have a grade, and it won't be an open book test, but she will have been working on mastery throughout that week before she takes the quiz. And I may do end of year massive math tests. I may just do it because I think having that experience and knowing fully what you were capable of remembering, if you're going to be a C student in math, that's okay. C's get degrees. That's what my sister loves saying. C's get degrees, y'all. But they do. And it's okay to be average in something. If you need it, it's okay to also continue to work on it. And so that's how I use assessments and teach Morgan with tests and with quizzes. There are a couple other points, though, that I actually want to bring up separately. And that is, I do like to know that my standardized testing is documented. I feel good about that. If anybody were to question how I was doing as a homeschool mom, all I need to do is open my books, and it's not just Morgan's day-to-day work, but here's a test as well. Every year, the same week, the last week of school, we test. To me, that professionalizes what I do, because when I was a professional in my career, we took tests. We had to certify in certain things, and if you didn't certify, you didn't work. Or you couldn't do that certain job, or you couldn't do that part of the job, or you couldn't go to this place. And so I feel like, just to me at least, that it professionalizes my environment, and it instills a seriousness with Morgan as well, that she knows that I take it seriously. Not that I care that she takes it seriously. I just want her to enjoy taking the test and do her best. But she sees that I am very serious about it. And one of those ways that I show the seriousness is documenting our progress, because I tell Morgan that we are in this together. Her test is about us and how we are doing. And I also, as my last takeaway here, I think sometimes when I do these videos and when I say the things that I say, it's a way to document my own timeline, because your own history doesn't exist unless you document it. Unless you write it down, it didn't happen. And I want to be part of the homeschool voice. If somebody looks at homeschoolers and asks questions, I want to have already provided the answer. I want to have already created the paperwork so that I can show, look at us as a homeschool community. Look at what we are doing without your help, without any guidance. Here's how women professionalize homeschool, and we're knocking it out of the park. And I want to be part of that. To me, testing is a small portion of what goes into that, in my opinion, in my homeschool. So that's just my thought. So I'm going to do something a little different for the end of this video, because I've got a few things that I want to mention as well. And that is that next week is my release of the video for Monday will be the 31st of March. So from now on, for the foreseeable future, I would like to make the 31st of March be my formal release date for my next year's curriculum picks, which is always such a fun video. But I also want to caveat that with a few things. And that is, if you watch my video and you really, really like the curriculum I picked, do me a favor and don't buy it right away. I realize that all of us are coming at you with all of these really cool things and all of our really awesome ideas. And it's okay if you just sit on that for a little while. And maybe, what if you buy something too soon and then you see another video and think, oh, I didn't know about that curriculum. I should have waited, and now I spent this much money. But I want to be a help, not a hindrance. And so I would like you to take that video as such. Also, I won't be showing a lot of the readers that we will be reading in the 6th grade, because I haven't bought them yet. Morgan has a huge TBR already, and we're just going to slide into the 6th grade and move on. But I have shown you a few as an example. Also, I have been very consistent about posting, notifying everybody, all my viewers, that on Sunday, this is what the video is going to be like, setting it for premiere to then post on every Monday at exactly noon. And I have maintained massive consistency with that. It was a goal of mine this year to be very consistent, so everyone knew what video was coming out, and it always came out at the same time. Now I want to change my channel for longevity, and doing a homeschool video in depth, the way I kind of like to talk and the way I like to discuss things, to then edit it and then post it or do the thumbnail for it, all that stuff. To do that every week is not sustainable if I want to do this up until Morgan graduates from high school. And a mini goal of mine is to do this until Morgan graduates from high school. I do want to have documentation of this homeschool for other people and for the long term. But I can't do that if I post a video every week. It'll kill me. I've enjoyed it and I want to keep enjoying it. So because of that, I'm changing my release dates for my videos. And so next week the Monday will be the 2025-2026 curriculum pick video. And that's a big one. I think that's an hour long. Then after that, I'm going to go every other week. So the next one will be on the 14th of April, and it will likely be Geography Main Lesson Part 2. Then in 2 weeks from there, the 28th of April, Man and Animal Main Lesson Part 2. And then on the 12th of May, I don't have an idea for a video yet. So if you have ideas, or if you've got questions that I could develop into a video to answer so that everybody can hear an answer to something that most people have a question to, I'd be happy to do that. So please let me know if there's anything of interest that you want to see me talk about on the 12th of May. I'm happy to do that. And then the 26th of May will be a wrap-up video, just kind of similar to last year. And then Morgan will be on to talk to you and show you what she read. After that, I will break for the summer like I did last year, and I will come back on the 1st of August. The next video after the 1st of August will be the 1st of September. So my plan is to go from weekly videos to longer, more in-depth monthly videos so that I only have to edit one weekend instead of every weekend. And I only have to do one thumbnail, and I only have to upload one video a month. And that will really help with my longevity, because I have other interests that I want to pursue, and I am really careful with how I spend my time. And this is something that I want to continue, and I also have other things I want to do. So this frees me up to be able to do more than one thing. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you, you guys. Thank you to the Momma Librarian and Michelle G for letting me collaborate. Love you guys. See ya.